And we should be going live. All right. I will go ahead and call to order the regular meeting for the City Council for August 2nd, 2021. Just a heads up, we are recording the meeting as usual. We will post the recording online tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, we're having difficulty with the streaming hardware or software, and so we've got a fancy phone over there. Rest assured, if you can't hear everything or see everything, you can check the website and it'll be uploaded tomorrow. So with that, invocation and pledge of allegiance will be Councilmember Shin.
Our Father, we come before you tonight to take care of the people's business. Please give us wisdom and discernment so that we will make the proper decisions. Help us to ask the questions that we need to get the information that we need. Go with us now as we go into the meeting. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Shin. The first order of business is then the special guests and announcements, where I get to name the employee of the month. We've been catching up on these pretty rapidly, but I'd like to name Jason Bargiel as the Mayor's Employee of the Month for February 2021. Jason, where are you hiding at? This is where I get to say a whole bunch of nice stuff about you. This is a proclamation naming Jason Bargiel as the Mayor's Employee of the Month for February 2021 and declaring August 5th, 2021 to be Jason Bargiel Day in the city of Maumelle. Whereas Jason Bargiel serves as the city's street department supervisor, overseeing street maintenance crews, planning and coordinating work details, and ensuring city streets are maintained year-round. Whereas Mr. Bargiel has been a tremendously valuable employee of Public Works Department for nearly 25 years, beginning his career with the city in 1996 as a grounds maintenance laborer and working his way up through the ranks. Whereas Mr. Bargiel tirelessly led his crew in snow removal and salt spreading during the February snowstorm, Mr. Bargiel, along with his entire snow crew, worked around the clock to clear roadways, making essential travel possible throughout the extreme weather we saw here in Maumelle. And whereas Mr. Bargiel has shown great dedication to his responsibilities, has a strong work ethic, inspires teamwork, and maintains a positive attitude on the job, making him an exceptional asset to the city. Now, therefore, I, Caleb Norris, Mayor of Maumelle, do hereby declare Jason Bargiel to be the Mayor's Employee of the Month for February 2021, and hereby proclaim August 5th, 2021 to be Jason Bargiel Day in the city of Maumelle. Awesome. Thank you very much, and thank your team for all the work that they do.
Yes, sir.
25 years is a long time to work anywhere, especially having to work with people like Mike Hogan. But no, I'm just teasing. No, thank you very much. The next item of business is the approval of the minutes from the July 19th regular meeting. Is there any discussion on that?
Motion to approve.
I've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the July 19th regular meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Next up is public comment cards. I have one public comment card on an agenda item, and it looks like another slowly walking its way up to me in a timely manner.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. All right, and that's also on a agenda item. With that, we will move on to department reports. Nicole Vogler with the Senior Services. Come on down.
Oh, all the fun stuff. All righty, well, want to thank you all for letting us do a report tonight. If I thought 2020 was an exciting year, 2021 has been just as exciting with the continued virus and continued things happening. So I'm going to try to look at it on the positive instead of the negative. So it gave us a chance to do curbside dining or curbside carryout, which we continue to still do curbside. We moved it from the front after we opened to the side. And then we also continue to do our virtual programming. Once you do virtual, it's hard to take it away. I actually thought that our virtual numbers would slow down, and if nothing else, they're ramping back up. So, which is kind of exciting. But I did a small slideshow for y'all to look at. The first slide has our numbers at a glance. It really is at a glance. Our events, you can see 2019 was close to 80,000 for 6 months. And we're about even with what we were in 2020. We had the first 3 months of 2020 were good, or 2.5 months were good. So I kind of take that into play. We're coming, I would love to say that we're really strong, but we've had quite a few switch from in-person to virtual lately. And so, you know, we're just trying to recognize and be aware of that and try to provide services for all those that are wanting service, whether it's in person or it's virtual, which we do both in hybrid. We have our meals, 2019. We're close with 2021 with 2020. Our volunteers are quite a bit down, even from 2019, but above 2020. And our rides, we are close to, actually we are over where we were in 2020. A lot of that's our medical rides. Our medical transportation continued through COVID. We considered it essential, and we took steps to clean vehicles between riders, and we just lessened the number of riders that we allowed on the vehicles. But so far in 2021, we're at 2,809 versus 2020, which was at 2,500. So definitely making a good effort there in getting people the rides that they want. And then the other thing to mention, was the virtual attendees. We actually, so far in 2021, have had 4,300 virtual attendees. The year before, we had 651. So once you go virtual, it doesn't seem like you go back. It's just something that our members continue to want, whether it be drawing classes, history, or exercise classes. So kind of a little bit of everything. But then moving to the next one, we have our membership options. Our largest number of passes are our residents. Right now, we are sitting at 1,054 members. Of those, about 781 are resident silvers. Then we also have the golds, and then we flip over to the non-resident silver and gold, and then we show the hours down below on that. And then special events, even though we had a COVID year, we tried to do a lot of things that we could outside. So with Game and Fish, we did kayaking classes. We also did field trips as we could, and as you'll see, we have quite a few less riders on a field trip than we typically would have had. And then our fishing events, which are also with Game and Fish. And those were very popular events that we've had. And gotta love Jenny C. up in that left-hand corner with her antlers. Drawing and visual arts, genealogy, exercise classes, discussion groups with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, and more. And as we've been able to bring it back, knitting, pre-retirement events, retirement events, smartphone, tablet courses with UCA, and watercolor events. And food seems to be very popular, so I added a couple food things on there because that's one of the things our members tend to like. We are close to, we're keeping track. We started last month keeping track of our dine-in versus curbside and to-goes, and we're almost half and half of those that are dine-in versus curbside and to-go. So that seems to be interesting as an option. Also mention the archery that Game and Fish presented for us outside. We're always looking for volunteers. We did a couple of volunteer projects with a local school with getting cards. They made cards for volunteer hours. Then we also used those with our Holiday of Hope, where we were able to get food donations. We gave those away to those that wanted those in the community. We did 100 cars, and we also did food donations to Audubon Point. No, that's at the end of the year. And then a little brag letter. One of our members sent a letter into the mayor on our transportation. A lot of our members that use transportation depend on it to get to the doctor, depend on it to get to the center, to get to where they want to go in the city itself. And so it's just a great program that y'all let us do, and we love getting to do it. One thought is that they're all low income, but they're not. They're from all walks of life that are here in Maumelle that want to stay in Maumelle. And so, it's just a fun thing that we get to do, and thank you for letting us do it. And I'm learning more and more, what it means to be viable and to age in place and to have services that you can do that with. And so, the kayaking classes were a huge hit. Of course, I don't think we could do it without Game and Fish because they actually brought the kayaks out each time. But we had members that were maybe non-traditional members for us that were coming out and really enjoying it. And so a lot of fun. We have our link to our events, to our page with the city's website down below. And, it's just a fun place to be.
Well, thank you. Also, what Nicole didn't say is she was the star of the city's first ever TikTok. Her and some of her members, as they were riding bikes down one of the trails back there, that may or may not have ended well. But is there any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, thank you very much, Nicole, for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
And just a reminder to those joining us just now on Facebook, we're having difficulty streaming through our normal software, so we're streaming through a phone right now, and you can see the full video, including the presentations, tomorrow on the city's website. With that, we will move on to the Planning Commission report. Councilmember Holt had a doozy of a meeting.
It was an experience, Mr. Mayor. Would it be possible to put the map of the 5 areas up on the screen? Is that possible? Do you have that available?
Madam City Clerk?
5 areas.
No, it's okay. All right. Okay, well, I'll do my best I can. Y'all brace yourselves. The Planning Commission meeting, July the 22nd, 2021. Meeting called to order at 6:30 by Chairman Christner. After he called for announcements, Director Scott Grimmer announced the Majestic Point Lot 117R lot merger has been approved and filed. He also announced that changes for applications procedure and new system for approval in process because of the heavy backload that has been there almost ever since he's been. Then we called for the approval of the minutes. They were approved, and there is no old business. There were 5 locations for approval this evening, or on the agenda. That these are all first reading, I believe. The first one is Pinnacle Heights subdivision at 200 Highland Drive. There are 3 proposals for this one site. The first proposal is for annexation. The second proposal is amendment to the master map plan from ETJ to an SFD. From I wrote them down what those are, but we won't go into it. Proposed amendment to the master zoning map from county to R1 is the third one. The subdivision was previously approved by the county for being built, and is now waiting on the county to release that approval. Subdivision can be built by the county regardless of whether the city approves it tonight or approves it at all or not.
they prefer having it under the city guidance for street and construction guidance. This was originally filed by John Wright in 1989. A number of speakers were present in opposition to the proposal, including one lady who had a list of 60 residents, a petition from 60 residents who spoke against the proposal. The commission, however, passed a do pass motion. Brady Family Properties, 23705 Highway 365 and 14025 Old Maumelle Road. There are 3 requests for approval. The first one is for annexation. That property is outside the city limits. It is surrounded by 365, Highway 365 on the north side, the railroad tracks on the south side, and the Old Maumelle Road on the east side. The county has already released the property for annexation. This property will never become a subdivision because it is outside the city limits and the railroad track divides it. Maumelle will become responsible for up to 900 feet of maintenance for the Old Maumelle Road if it passes. There is no request for development of this tract of land. It is a request for land only. The only maintenance that would be required would be by Public Works, Fire, and Police. Proposal 2 is an amendment for master use map from ETJ to commercial and SFD. Proposed Amendment 3 is to the master zoning map from county to C1 and R1. The commission voted a do pass. Diamond Center, 1020 Country Club Parkway, Phase 18, Track 4. Just for the record, this particular site took only like 10 minutes, taking matching exactly 1/2 of the whole 2.5-hour meeting. It was a very long discussion. There are 5 proposals for this site. First is conditional use to allow a drive-in restaurant in a PRD zone. After discussion, that request was deferred. Proposal 2 is proposal for a preliminary plat. Proposal 3, preliminary development plan. Proposal 4, landscape plan. Proposal 5, commercial building design. Even though the first proposal is deferred, it does not prevent the next 4 from being being considered. The building would have 7,128 square feet, give or take, and there would be 5 storefronts in the building. There were several concerns about this center. Number 1, it is too close to the ball field, which will cause parking problems when the ball field is in use. There is no applicant for either of the 5 storefronts, having approximately 1,400 square feet each. DeVoe Bend at 1600 Milligan Road. It's on the back side of Charter residence. There are 2 proposals. One is proposal for primary plat and the other for preliminary development. Basically, there were only 2 major concerns. One was wetlands, and the other one was access to the bayou. Half of that particular plat is undesignated for use, although they think that they may have an idea of what they want to do later, but it has no specified use. Again, the committee voted to pass. Harris Addition at 95 Commercial Park has been previously approved by this council for development and plat. There are 2 other proposals. First proposal is a landscape plan, and the second proposal is for commercial building design to PRD. It passed with a do pass recommendation. The Harris and Pfeiffer addition. The contractor stated he would be glad to agree to the decision to defer until next month. Commissioner Johnson quickly seconded the motion. There was no discussion and meeting adjourned. Done. Praise God.
Excuse me, thank you, Jess. That was a very thorough report in what I think was the most full planning commission agenda they've had since I've been paying attention.
It's 2.5 hours long, and believe it or not, I watched it twice.
Ooh, glutton for punishment.
Not on the same day.
Well, thank you. The next order of business is a procedural motion. I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. With that, the next item on the agenda is the third reading of Ordinance 1036, establishing rights-of-way standards. This is what I'm asking to have happen is that this be tabled until October. Y'all are aware that one of the big issues that we were looking at was trying to relocate some power poles. We have that agreement that the council approved at the last council meeting in place with Entergy. And we've got the letter of credit, and they have just an update on that. The vegetation has now been submitted for requisition work crews. They expect that to take 13 days. It was supposed to start today. As of early this afternoon, it still hadn't started, but they believed it would be able to start on Monday. Additionally, we've been working with the engineers to see if there's portions of that road that we could begin doing some extra work on while the vegetation is being removed. That would necessitate the closing of some lanes, more lanes than we had anticipated, or more portions of a lane than we had anticipated. But just due to the delays that we've had, we think that we might be able to find a way and get that project going even sooner. That's on standby. Madam City Attorney, did you have anything to add?
I just wanted to go ahead and update on the progress of the Public Service Commission filings. I did attempt to file our answer on Thursday and didn't get an acceptance, so I called both Friday and today, and their electronic filing system has been down. They're waiting on some parts, apparently, to come in to remedy that situation. But since it was attempted to be filed on time, that shouldn't really be a problem. I did go ahead and email that out today when I found out it wasn't going to be able to be accepted today to all the parties that we've been communicating with. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask.
Thank you. And so because we've got something moving right now, I think the idea was just not to stir up more that might require amended pleadings back and forth with the Public Service Commission. So asking to table this third reading until October.
So moved. Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. With that, we will move on to new business, which, much like the Planning Commission, might be the most new business that we've had at the City Council here in a while. But the first item is the first reading of Ordinance 1037, accepting the annexation of land, Pinnacle Heights property. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1037, an ordinance accepting the annexation of land commonly known as the Pinnacle Heights property to be titled the Pinnacle Heights Property Annexation to the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, and making the Pinnacle Heights property a part of the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. For those that aren't aware, the map as attached in Exhibit 1 shows a portion of land that is, that extends out beyond Ridgeland. One of the key things to talk about in this is the landowner's right to do something with their property. As soon as that landowner came in with plans for a development in that area, I requested, and they, let's see if I can get this on the recording. I requested and they obliged to bring it into the city. Some of the things that I think are very important with it's the joys of playing cameraman and trying to talk. There we go. The idea being that if this area is going to be developed and has access there to Ridgeland, that it's in the city's best interest and the interest of the residents in that area to make sure that the city is playing a role in ensuring that it's built to city codes, that the drainage is being handled by planning and permits, and Scott Grummer in particular, who's been a zealous advocate for good drainage in subdivisions going in. We wanted to ensure that if there's an emergency and police and fire are going out there, that it's Maumelle Police and Maumelle Fire and not necessarily Pulaski County Sheriffs, racing down the boulevard, hitting Odom and going down Ridgeland to respond to this area out there. And so that and keeping it up to city codes, the landowner was happy to do that. The schedule of services that we have promised to provide are standard police and fire services to that area. So with that, I'll go ahead and open this up for discussion. This is on first reading. Councilmember Holt.
As I had said before, that the county has previously already approved the land site for being constructed, so even if the city doesn't approve it, it could still be done, so hopefully the city will approve it. If I may offer a suggestion or recommendation, Mr. Mayor, as you go up Ridgeland Heights, or Ridgeland Drive, everything on the right-hand side is Ward 4. It's the dividing line between Ward 3 and Ward 4, and everything on the left is Ward 3. I was wondering whether or not it would be possible, since there are people in the area that they have their thoughts about it, to have the contractor or builder, whoever, meet with members of the community, as many of them as possible, under the guidance of our director, Scott, and see if they could get together and sort of line out, ease the differences between them, and talk together, and maybe it would resolve some of their feelings about the issue. So I don't think the council would have to vote on it, but if that could be done, I think it would help. This is first reading, so we have plenty of time to get that done, if they would take it and do it.
Gotcha, yeah, I'm happy to suggest that to the property owner.
Okay, good, I appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mosley?
Do we have any public comments on this?
I do not have any public comment cards on this item, sir.
Okay. Yeah, my biggest concern is the Ridgeland Road thing. I drove out there, and it's a long road, and there's a lot of cul-de-sacs along the way, and I know there were some folks that talked at the planning meeting, and were concerned about opening up a big subdivision, and that's one of the questions I've got is how many houses or lots are we looking at here? Yeah, if you want to come up to the
I don't
podium.
have that number. We do
Okay.
have a representative of the applicant. If you could come to the microphone, sir, state your name and an address for you.
Applicant Jess Griffin, 5 Kingston, Little Rock. It's 186 that have been approved.
186, okay.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin, while I have you, you heard the recommendation from Councilmember Holt. I think it would be a fair idea if you were the property owner wanted to reach out to some of the neighbors. I think that could go a ways.
We tried to get a meeting actually before this, last Friday, but they just couldn't get together in time, and so I said the first meeting is today, so now that you said that, we'll definitely get back in touch with him and try to get something, and I think we're trying to schedule it maybe at the city center or somewhere that's very available for everybody.
I would hope they would be willing to talk to you, because they had all, obviously, we always have concerns about those things, but I felt like that you would be able to really, you made the point that you followed all the procedures, you dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and everything you could do, and perhaps if they just sit down and talk with you, if we don't do it, the county's gonna do it.
Yeah, and I think there was a big misunderstanding. They thought they were coming to talk about the development as opposed to just, now that we've already got that passed and done everything that we're supposed to do.
Right.
It's just about the annexation, and I think, in talking to the one neighbor, he agreed. He's like, this is good because y'all have they have more power as citizens over the development than they would if it wasn't in the city.
Right. Appreciate your help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, and we'll get back to you, Councilmember Mosley. Before we do, I also want to say that whenever you have land that is so close to the city, those folks have a right to do stuff, and if it's not in Maumelle, there's little that we could do zoning-wise to regulate what goes in there. Of all the possible uses that could have gone into that area, I think this is the use that best fits the surrounding neighborhoods, single-family residential, that really matches the other lots. You could have ended up with drive out in the county and just think of what could have ended up out there. And so of the possible uses, this is the best one that I could think of. So with that, Councilmember Mosley, you still have the floor, sir.
Okay. Ridgeland goes out there and it goes straight into, if you haven't driven out there, it goes straight, dead ends into a cul-de-sac. And there's a big lot there that I guess will be the entrance to this new neighborhood, or the proposed entrance. And I want to question, as you can see on these maps, there's actually another road that accesses that property called Settlement. Why is it that it's a foregone conclusion that would need to be accessed through Ridgeland? Why would we put 186 more people on Ridgeland if they can access it from Settlement?
So you had a little bit of a legal question that I'll let the city attorney answer. I will point out that the master street plan has long shown that connection to go out through that area and actually eventually connect into 365. Ridgeland is a collector, and in fact, if they were to develop it, they'd have to build that road to continue the collector grade road that has long been planned for. As to your other question, Madam City Attorney.
Okay, which part of it was directed to me? I'm sorry, was it?
Mainly, why is it a foregone conclusion that they should have access down Ridgeland if Settlement Road accesses that from the west? Why do they need to? Why does that need to come into Maumelle? Why do we need to be involved in the development of that land?
Well, I think they do have that. They already hold that right of way. That you were talking about, that lot that's at the end of Ridgeland. I believe that was reserved as right of way, and the applicant may want to come talk about this as well, because there have been some discussions. It's my understanding that the county has not approved them using Settlement. Sorry, I had a cough a minute ago, so I want to put that on. That the county has some reservations with them using Settlement at this point, because Settlement is not altogether on their property, and it hasn't been developed. That road hasn't been developed adequately to support it. It's my understanding that that's the county's position.
Okay.
But again, the applicant may have some more information about that.
Yeah, I guess at this point, I'm not
I think
convinced.
he's got his hand up back there, so.
I'm not convinced that there's a right to access that land through Ridgeland.
It looks like we have 2 folks coming down. 3 folks coming down. If you could state your name and address for the record.
I will. I'm Fred Payton, live at 153 Hibiscus in Maumelle. First of all, if you'd go out Highway 65 to Old Settlement Road and come in that way rather than from Ridgeland, it's pretty obvious why, as a developer, you wouldn't want to go that way. You got to go out to a liquor store, turn, come through the woods, come up a dirt road and a gravel road and part paved road on Old Settlement Road. And it's just, you know, if you're going to build 186 houses or whatever, and Ridgeland was originally designed to be a street, an extended street into that area. And so that's why he wanted that area to go into his development, because it's a lot more attractive. Plus, if he had Maumelle Fire and Police and so forth available, the fire station just right down Odom Boulevard North, come up to Ridgeland and turn, and you're there in 5 minutes. Whereas if it had to come from the county, it could take hours. Houses could burn, people could be killed. So it's pretty obvious as to why he would want to do it that way.
Thank you, sir. If you could please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Dr. Ramsey, 5 Brittany Drive. I'm the owner of that property. So when I went and saw that property, it's just beautiful. It has a nice slope down to the Arkansas River. The Pinnacle Mountain is seeing there. And I immediately knew that I wanted to buy that property. What I was told was that Ridgeland was a collector road basically, and it would continue as settlement. And there were certain restrictions, expectations that were expected to make this development happen. And one of that was, condition was that we would extend Ridgeland down as settlement road. So we just followed whatever the city told us to meet their codes and ordinances. So we just followed city directions and instructions, and Jess Griffin, my engineer, drew the plans according to that. We didn't come up with this on our own. We were told this is how it has to happen. We said, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Griffin, were you going to add something, or do you think that's been covered?
I mean, I might just state that I think the original intent was to make that connection, and that when 60 feet is left perfectly on a piece of property, that means you have 60 feet of right-of-way that's for future use, because you wouldn't want to cut the city off from the rest of the land that they could incorporate into the city.
Okay, I'm mainly looking at this from a resident perspective. You know, I understand that, yes, it would be great for developers to go ahead and access it from there. But is it in the best interest of the residents that live along Ridgeland who've been here speaking in front of the Planning Commission and presented a 60 person petition saying they don't want that? Is it in the best interest to allow that to be accessed down Ridgeland? The only thing that I've heard here that may give them the right is you're saying that it's on the master street plan already.
It's
Is that
on the
correct?
master street. Yes, sir. It's on the master street plan. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. It's on the master street plan, and the Riverland plat showed a 60-foot connection at that location. I think there's one other thing that does make this a good idea. I'm not, Mr. Payton, I'm not going to open this up for a whole lot of dialogue. If a council member has a question, I'll call you. But if for the individuals that area is going to develop one way or the other eventually. Right. The way that develops that is most favorable to the current Maumelle residents in that area is if it develops in a way that coincides with that. For those on the north side of town where parts of the city border unincorporated areas, we often hear complaints of things that occurring just outside the border that we wouldn't, I was hearing complaints of things happening in the county that we wouldn't allow in the city. And whether that is burning of trash or garbage or just other things like that. If this land had to take access from that other area, you can drive down 365, and this is my opinion. If they had to take access from that area, the types of development that we would see out there would probably not coincide very well with, or has a high potential to not coincide very well with the surrounding area, right? Hypothetically, you could end up with, I don't know, apartments, mobile homes, a commercial facility, metal buildings, where there's a weld shop right in people's backyards. And so part of protecting that area is almost this sort of development, and I think if you don't take access off Ridgeland, then you're changing the type of people and the type of uses that you would see on that property. And that is my personal opinion that addresses that.
So you're saying like a rock quarry could be developed there or something like that?
I don't know
That's
the
entirely
county.
possible?
I don't know the county code. Anything you see in the county could go right there. And so in this area that folks are saying that we're working with them to make sure the drainage is just right and that it's not negatively impacting the land, it could be built to whatever you could build in the county, right? And so I'm not familiar with whether they have codes on where rock quarries could go. A junkyard or you name it.
Ms. Cindy Turing, would you agree that there is a master street plan that gives them the right to access there? Are
The
you
master
familiar
street
with that?
plan has been in place for, I'm not sure exactly how long, but I mean, it's well established that was to be a connection at some point in the future.
It's strange though, because it's a cul-de-sac. It's not like stubbed off or something that would give prospective residents a clue that something's going to be developed down there, so.
Thankfully, it's a cul-de-sac, so we're not allowing those roads right now to currently just dead end. It provides difficulty for sanitation, it provides difficulty for the fire truck, any apparatus that has to get in that corner. We're now requiring that cul-de-sac and turn around there. So in some of the other areas where it just stubs off, you'll either see that there's no homes there, like past that intersection, or we'll require them to put a cul-de-sac in.
Okay.
So because there's homes past, pop quiz on that street, Hudson Bay, to access those homes, we want that cul-de-sac there. Though I agree, your average resident might not have checked the plat to realize that was supposed to be a connection.
Right. Could we put the master street plan in the packet the next time that shows that is, can we do that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
It's also available on the planning and zoning website, just in case anybody wants to take a look at it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I add something?
No, sir.
to-
I don't want to start the whole back and forth. If one of the council members has a question for you, I'm sure they can ask.
Okay, I was just going to add to what you said, that
Yeah,
regardless.
so if one of the Mr. Payton, if one of the council members has a question, I'm happy to allow him to ask you a question. But I don't want to just open up the floor for everyone to come up and start sharing their opinion.
Oh, okay, just the council member can share. their
Yes, or someone who
opinions.
put in a public comment card. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, what kind of services will we be doing? Trash, police, fire, code enforcement, the whole thing, is that correct?
I don't know if I believe we plan on sanitation. It'll certainly be police, fire, code enforcement, standard city services. Is there any, I assume this is city sanitation? Yes.
Okay, so, yeah, because I guess how would they get their trash picked up? They'd have to come in Settlement Road or something like that?
Settlement Road can't, I think there's a condition that Settlement, and someone else I'm sure knows more about this than I do, and feel free to hop up, Mr. Grummer. I think Settlement Road, there is not supposed to be access except in emergency situations.
So the mayor's correct. The county, as part of the agreement, they were requiring a gate at where Settlement Road reaches this property because Settlement Road is not to the standard to manage the traffic without full development. So
Okay, so they won't-
services would have to be provided through Ridgeland. And also to clarify, as mentioned before, the Ridgeland connection was shown as a connection 60-foot on the original plat for Ridgeland subdivision. And the property owner actually owns that land now to that street connection. So, to my understanding of planning, you cannot deny the right to connect to a right-of-way street if they choose to do so.
Okay. So they can't even, this will be the only access to this neighborhood if the county said that they have to put a gate out there, is that correct?
So it was part of the approvals with the preliminary plat was providing for additional ingress and egress as the development moves out. So there's Trax Road to the north, there's also Settlement Road to the west. As far as the use of that, as the subdivisions go further to the north, there's areas for additional connection onto, potentially into Maumelle. But right now, based on the numbers, as long as they connect to Settlement Road and provide the emergency ingress and egress, then they satisfy the needs in order to build out the full 186 homes.
Okay. Now, is there a possibility of more neighborhoods beyond this one that would need to be accessed down Ridgeland? Would that be?
So we have not looked any further than this subdivision, but typically what you would see is if it develops further on out west, there would be requirements to improve Settlement Road as it moves on out, and eventually you would have a connection to 365 as land develops out. But that's just typically done incrementally as land becomes available.
Who would pay for all these new roads?
The developer.
The developer would pay eventually to get it all the way to 365, is that correct?
Correct. Any land that they choose to develop, they would have to make the road improvements on that land, which is what is happening here. The developer is making the road improvement all the way from where it connects to Ridgeland all the way across to Settlement, where it connects.
That's something I was wanting to ask about because we've had to ask our taxpayers to build a lot of roads and interstate interconnections and things like that as a result of development. And I want to make sure that that's in the plan this time so that we don't shell out lots and lots of money for that sort of thing. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Are you,
I'm going to review my notes real quick if somebody else has some questions. I think I may be done.
Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yeah, it's a few. It says obviously scheduled services, police, fire, and sanitation's add-on. Have we coordinated with them to make sure we can do that within our effective manning levels? And because we have a few annexations coming, and if this grows, I don't want us to write a check now for something later and go, hey, we need more assets to service these areas.
So all that was done when we went through the preliminary plat phase, where both all fire, police, and sanitation came to the table to and reviewed this project. They were all in agreement and were able to handle the capacity for the expansion. As to the addition of additional services as the area grows, that's hard to tell right now. But again, these are done incrementally, so you'll see it done in phases. I believe they had quite a few phases, and it takes several years for it to actually build out.
That makes sense. So it says we're going in conjunction with the county. Is there any negatives of following that same process, or is that just, worked independently, that would just speed up the process?
I mean, as far as going concurrently?
As far as the annexation, yeah.
So we're running this concurrently with the county. The county has not released Pinnacle Heights yet. Being that this is going through 3 readings, we anticipate getting the release within the next week to 2, hopefully, but more than likely you're going to have it before the 3rd reading. Okay. It speeds up the process so the developer has his entitlement so he can move forward with his civil plans and development.
All right. And last question. I'm not going to, obviously, Ridgeland abuts Ward 2, so I've got a lot of feedback on that as well, but you asked all the questions and more I was going to ask, so thank you. The other thing is drainage. I know you are a big advocate of good drainage, but obviously that area, it's fresh on people's minds about the drainage, and a lot want to make sure that it's in our ordinance. How confident should they be that they're not going to have drainage issues again on this one? I'm telling them yes, but I'd like to hear it from.
Well, and that's another reason why you want this annexed into the city, because it allows us the ability to review those civil plans. If the development happens in the county, the city does not review civil engineering plans for developments in the county. So that, and we've had past issues with flooding in parts of areas close to the city that we get blamed for that, but we never reviewed the civil plans.
Okay.
So this gives us that ability to review it and have greater oversight. Can't have guarantees, but at the same time, we're working our best to have better processes now when it comes to drainage.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the drainage question. That was my last remaining question. That land, that is up there, it's above Beaver Creek, and some of that newer area that has caused a lot of flooding. I've got a friend that lives there on Beaver Creek who has bent my ear for several years over the drainage. I'm not the alderman from over there, but I don't want to hear him calling me anymore about developments that may have not have been thought out correctly beforehand. So is that land that we would be taking in, is it on the far side of this ridge where that water now currently comes down onto Beaver Creek?
I don't know as much Beaver Creek. It actually backs up to Breckenridge.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of an existing kind of a drainage culvert area that catches water off of this land right now behind the houses that it abuts to on Breckenridge. And I actually have a friend that lives on that street whose backyard got flooded because that drainage way wasn't kept up and the water overflowed and went into the backyard. So having this developed actually provides improvements that can prevent future issues on Breckenridge the way that I see it. In addition, it allows us the ability to for the developer to make those improvements that makes the drainage a lot better. But yes, water is intended, some of that backs up to Breckenridge would come down, but it would drain out towards the west, towards the wetlands and down into detention, and they would have all their required drainage facilities.
Okay, so most of it would drain to the other side of that ridge, is that what I'm
It
hearing?
would drain following the ridge, so it kind of goes downgrade from where Ridgeland starts, where it's going to start with the subdivision, and it kind of goes downgrade towards the west.
Okay,
But then there's areas to the north that'll drain that way, but there will be some drainage that'll come towards Breckenridge, but again, it's all planned out to be handled.
okay. Sounds like you put a lot of thought into it.
Oh, trust me, I get calls all the time on drainage, so it's my pet peeve to make sure that we keep an eye on that.
All right, thank you, sir. I think that's all my questions for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, we will move on to the next item of business, which is the first reading of ordinance 1038, amendment to land use plan and map. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1038, an ordinance amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and Map due to annexation and for other purposes.
All right, this is the land use change for that area. This changes it from extraterritorial jurisdiction to single-family detached, which I think is one of our least intrusive zoning categories. If you haven't got a chance already, be sure and take a look at the zoning and land use summary completed by staff on this issue. Is there any discussion on ordinance 1038? If not, this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. The next order of business is ordinance 1039, amendment to zoning map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1039, an ordinance amending the Maumelle zoning map due to annexation and for other purposes.
Thank you. This is the zoning for the same area going from ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, to R1, single-family detached. If there is no discussion on this, it will be at second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, we'll move on to the first reading of ordinance 1040, accepting annexation of land, the Bradley property. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1040, an ordinance accepting the annexation of land commonly known as the Bradley property, to be titled the Bradley Property Annexation to the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, making the Bradley property a part of the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
All right, this is an ordinance accepting annexation for Bradley property. This area currently touches 365. It is a voluntary annexation, and we don't currently have any planned developments coming in. They do, of course, they're wanting to put the front portion, the portion that borders 365 to commercial, and then the back portion to residential, as we'll discuss there. Is there any discussion on ordinance 1040? Councilmember Mosley.
Okay. First question is, with the railroad tracks between Maumelle and this property, is that considered contiguous? Or is that separated? It's not, the railroad property wouldn't be owned by Maumelle, it wouldn't, I assume it's in the city limits, is that?
So we submitted this to the Arkansas GIS office, and they said it met all the requirements for annexation there.
All right. And right now, there's been no plan, there's no plan for housing, number of housing or access, how that property, the residential side looks to be kind of landlocked from 365. How would that be accessed? Do we know that at this point?
We do not have any plans at this point. I don't think there's any plans behind the scenes waiting to pop forward. I think one of the ideas is through annexation, this property will become more marketable, and then a developer will purchase it, at which point access to both the commercial and residential property will be of interest, specifically the residential property, making sure that there is sufficient access off of more than just Old Maumelle Road or multiple access points off there.
Yeah.
But again, we don't have anything submitted or whispers behind the scenes on that.
Okay. Yeah, why? This is outside our area. The police and fire would have to go down 365, and so would sanitation, all that. Why would annexing this property be in the best interest of the residents of Maumelle?
I think the best example is anytime somebody looks out at maybe something in the North Little Rock area near Maumelle and says, boy, oh boy, I wish somebody would have got that in Maumelle. The fact of the matter is we don't have any plans submitted. We have area along 365 that could turn commercial, and will turn commercial whether or not it's in the city or not is kind of irrelevant to that. If we want it to develop to Maumelle standards as opposed to county standards, it's beneficial for Maumelle to have that in the city. So it's hard for me to point to a specific benefit other than I can't think of a downside to it, because it's either going to develop or not, regardless of whether it's in the city. If it's in the city, we get property tax revenue, we get sales tax revenue. We have the ability to make sure it's built to Maumelle standards and not county standards. So those would be my selling points on that.
As far as my memory, it seemed like we had a annexation committee, Alderman Vapursan, I think, headed it up. And one of the things I think we kind of determined, we were looking at the Morgan area and that area, and I was thinking at the time, we pretty much came to the conclusion that we would be interested in areas that were commercial as far as annexing in, and not necessarily trying to annex in residential. One, because the people over there, I don't think were in favor. There wasn't a big consensus in that area wanting to be annexed in. So, I don't know. I would ask if there's anybody, can we open the floor to any comments from residents that may have showed up and didn't know to submit a card, see if anybody
At the council's will, yes, sir.
on that?
I don't have a problem with that. Ma'am, looks like someone's raising their hand. If you could please come on down to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please.
Really appreciate it. And I think I can talk for, my name is Loretta Moody, by the way. Thank you for giving me a chance to talk today.
I need an address as well, ma'am.
I stay on Highway 365 North, 14214 Clam Lane.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think I can talk for the rest of them. I don't know how you guys are with your families, but we have a lot of elders in in my neighborhood, and we don't want to see a lot of traffic come through there, okay? And we like it peaceful, you know. We're okay with where we are, and we don't want a lot of commercials. Now, she said that they were going to do houses or whatever, but it's going to cause more traffic. We have more elders that's driving up to 80 to almost 90 years old, okay? And that's going to bring more potential, and people are coming in, robbing, stealing. It's going to bring a lot of other stuff in when you talk about commercial. And we're just a small little community, and we like it like that. There are a lot of people raising families out there, and they're not having to worry about their kids getting hit, you know, because it's slow motion out there, and we really like it like that. And I can truly tell you comments that I went through and talked to a lot of residents, the people that lives out there, they don't want all that. They like the peace, they like the quietness, you know, they don't want it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yeah, one just quickly. So it looks like it'll just be that section outline here, 900-foot Old Mall Road, where we will get, will that fall under us to maintain? Did I hear that correctly? And just, I haven't been out there. Do we look over, make sure that road is fairly good before we do it, or do we factor in if it needs repairs? What's that? Public Works. Oh, Public Works, okay. It's okay. Question?
Mike Hogan, 600 Cogdale Drive. Say that one more time.
Yeah, basically with that, with if we annex this, that area of the streets coming under us, so do we, I'm assuming we go out and assess it first to know what we're gonna get before we, during, some point during this process.
Right, the road is not up to city standards right now. It's not in bad shape. You know, I don't know what kind of subdivision will go in there eventually. Yeah, there's only 900 and something feet of it that we would have to maintain. I don't know if that would be something that the city would put curb and gutter on eventually. I don't know, but the road is not in too bad a shape as it is right now.
Okay.
So I don't know that there would be a whole lot of maintenance until something gets built out there that more traffic.
But when something gets built, it would have to be moved to code?
What we'd historically have done is if someone were developing that and there was a subdivision coming up to there, especially taking access off of it, they'd have to do, in this case, half-road improvements for that portion of the development there. There's no plans, and we haven't made any promises to the property owner that we're gonna come in and fix or do anything with the road, and quite frankly, I don't have any intention of doing that. I'd prefer to wait until a development comes in and they can do their half-road improvements.
All right, that answers my question, thanks.
Councilmember Holt?
I feel like that at the moment, we don't really have anything before us that is concrete that we can do anything with. It's gonna be more of an expense item than anything else. We're sort of, in my opinion, sort of betting on a comer. If there was a proposal or an interest from a buyer that would say, well, I would like to develop that if we can get the city to annex it or, you know, have a potential agreement in front of us. But if we just sit here and we have it, you know, it's not easy for us to ever get rid of it. We got it. So, I can't see, I would think that we would consider, this is not a suggestion now, but might want to consider just deferring this or tabling this for a later time, later in the year or early next year or something else, until we know a little bit more. We really don't have anything that is advantageous that I can see to the city, to annex it just to be annexing it, and we've got the whole ball of wax on our shoulders. I would not be able to support it, so that's just me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I would note that there's no anticipated immediate costs. If there's no development there, we anticipate policing to be pretty light, and then fires to be a wildfire or something along those lines. So because there isn't stuff there, the costs are very low at this point. It's not like there's a big cost to that. We don't plan on, I mean, we might have a pothole or something in our half road, but with that, we've got Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and to that point, you know, if you look at the map of this area, it is completely vacant. There's nothing there. It's all wooded with vegetation. And Director Grummer, I thought I overheard something at the Planning Commission about a proposed, of course, there's nothing that's been proposed for this area, but there would be a new road required off of 365 down through that commercial strip. Did I understand that correctly? If they ever wanted to build or develop, they would need to have multiple access points anyway. And would there be an additional road required anyway?
Well, I mean, if they put one big estate house on that big parcel, then probably not. But
Okay.
again, not knowing what they want to develop there is hard to determine. But
Sure.
if they go in with a residential subdivision for R1 type in the potential number of houses that you might be able to get in there, more than likely you're going to need 2 ways in and 2 ways out in order to meet fire code. So we would require at that point an additional access off of 365. More than likely, because they want it to be commercial against 365, that there'd be a common road that would access from there to access the commercial as well as going down. That's how we would see it, to access the residential.
And that was my understanding, because with, you know, looking at proposed traffic for people residents that may already live off of Old Maumelle Road, if something is going to be developed at some point and there would be new roads required, that would likely come in off of the annexed property. So there'd be another access point anyway. So I was just curious about that.
Well, for the most part, if it's an improved road coming off of 365 and it's easier access onto 365, then it may be more advantageous for that to go. But again, without a design in front of us, it's hard to say. But I will say that the public process that comes through the city is a lot more public facing versus when it goes to the county, and we do not, as the mayor had mentioned, have zoning regulation in the county, so it could be pretty much anything.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, let me ask a question here just to clarify this. One of the advantages of living in the county is that you're not under the code enforcement provisions of a city. And I just want to make sure here that if Old Maumelle Road is going to be part of Maumelle maintenance in the future, I just want to make sure that no code enforcement would apply to the other side of that road in any manner, that people that live there in the county would somehow or another be having to make improvements to their property or change their habits or things like that.
So we would only do code enforcement in the city. So whatever is inside the city limits is what we would enforce code enforcement.
Okay. All right. Right now, I'm leaning with Alderman Holt. I just don't see that this is a real benefit yet. I'll be thinking about it the next couple of meetings as to, I just don't see where if you all come aware of something that's going to be some commercial that might be able to be accessed by going through that area, that may be coming in there eventually or something, I'd be very interested in knowing that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Something that we all might want to keep in mind here before absolutely saying no to this. One of our problems in Maumelle, well, let me back up. If a town is not growing, it's dying, okay? It's really that simple. Now, one of our problems in Maumelle is we are quickly running out of areas that we can grow into. We've got the Arkansas River to the west. We've got Morgan, Panther Mountain and Faulkner County to the north. We've got White Oak Bayou to the west. We've got North Little Rock occupying every square foot, seems like, you know, on their side. We're running out of areas to grow into. So and this is one of my big arguments when people were asking me about why should we raise our taxes for the third entrance? Well, by state law, we're allowed to annex on the other side of I-40, okay? So that gives us areas we can grow into. And the way I look at this is just one small area that we can grow into, and the cost is minimal to us. But we've got to allow ourselves room to expand. So, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Councilmember Holt?
I appreciate the gentleman's comments. You know, we have two proposed developments here. One is commercial and the other one is residential. How do we get the same developer to be able to develop the commercial part? That's what the landowner wants to do. Do they come in, or somebody gonna do just commercial, and then later we'll do the land, or we're gonna do the land, maybe we'll do the commercial later? Or can we do, you know, I don't know how you go about developing a commercial area when you don't have enough storefronts. It's like this building that's next to the ball field where we have 5 storefronts and nobody to go in it yet. We're gonna do it anyway. But, you know, one of the things that we did just recently for the Harris development, since we didn't have any commercial area to go there, and it sat there for years and years and years, we went ahead and voted, okay, well, we'll put an apartment house there. So now we've got an apartment house. So we're growing. We just want all houses, but we can't seem to get any commercial. So if we could get somebody that wants a little bit of commercial out there, I'm all for it. But to have it just so I've got it in my pocket, I'm not inspired by it, but I appreciate the gentleman's comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Shin?
My concern is that we hadn't learned from our history. Some of what I found out when I was preparing for this position was that at one point we were offered to annex from the edge of the city all the way to 430, and leadership couldn't see the advantage in that. How different would our city be now had they done that and we had the revenues that are being generated from all that commercial development? If we say no now and something else happens, we don't get the opportunity again, possibly. And then we're bottled in again. It's just a thought.
Thank you, Councilmember Shin. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments. I lean a little bit more to Alderman Holt on this, though. I don't see a reason to take in more residential development just to grow. You know, if there's commercial that's going to pay for it, then yeah, let's talk about it. But I don't, you know, there's a realtor mantra that we've heard around here forever that Ken was, Alderman Saunders just mentioned, that if you're not growing, you're dying. I don't know that you can really apply that to Maumelle being a bedroom community of Little Rock and North Little Rock. We're not out in the middle of nowhere like Morrilton or someplace like that. We're not going to die. We've got a very, very nice community that a lot of people would like to live in. So I don't think we're going to die even if we don't build another house. So thank you.
Councilmember Tierney?
Well, I agree with Councilmember Mosley that we have a wonderful community out here in Maumelle. I also agree with Council members Saunders and Shin that we do need to grow, and we don't need to repeat the mistakes of previous councils where property that wanted to annex into the city was not, and now that's part of the commercial base of North Little Rock and like that. So I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, we'll move on to the first reading of ordinance 1041, amendment to the land use plan and map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1041, an ordinance amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and Map due to annexation and for other purposes.
All right, this is the land use plan for the Bradley property that we just discussed, taking the northmost tract, Tract A, and changing the land use from ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, to commercial, and then taking the south portion of the land, Tract B, and changing that from ETJ to single-family detached. If there's no discussion on this, it'll be on second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, next order of business is the first reading of ordinance 1042, amendment to the zoning map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1042, an ordinance amending the Maumelle zoning map due to annexation and for other purposes.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. This is a zoning map for the same property, the Bradley property, taking Tract A, the north portion, and changing the zoning from ETJ to Commercial 1 Village Center, and then taking the south portion of the land, Tract B, and changing that from ETJ to R1. If there's no discussion on this, it'll be on second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, next order of business is the approving a revised preliminary development plan. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read Resolution 2021-19.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2021-19, approving the preliminary development plan for the DeVoe Bend subdivision.
All right, this is a preliminary development plan for DeVoe Bend. We do have the applicant and representative for the applicant available if there's any questions, and I do have a public comment card from Mr. Eric Holloway. If you could please, is this just that you're available if there's any questions? Mr. Holloway, the representative and the applicant, is available should there be any questions. Councilmember Gardner?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-19.
I've got a motion and a second, and I've got at least one public comment, or one council member comment. Councilmember Mosley?
Okay, yeah, I've got, this is in my ward here, and had a very astute lady in my ward that backs up to this new development, and I know she's been in contact with the developer engineer, and she's had a lot of very good questions. And at the planning commission meeting, and she couldn't be at this meeting, and she made me swear that I would raise her issues again here, so I'm going to do that. And it's not that she's objecting, she's just hoping that we'll develop this and make sure that some things don't fall through the cracks. It looks like a very nice subdivision. It's going to take advantage of the bayou. I think the owner-developer is, from what I understand, has gone out of his way to, I think, grant some public access to the city for some of the prettier bayou areas and things like that. So that was, I have to commend him on that. Thank you. But the lady that backs up there, she actually has snake problems. She's had water problems and things like that. She is hoping that the city will make sure that the drainage aspects are very carefully looked at to make sure that if the development has to be built up, that it doesn't push water back onto the residents there along Carondelet. Am I saying that correctly? And so, any assurances you can give me on that, and whether there's going to be some trees left buffering the area and that sort of thing, it'd be nice to know.
Please come on down, name and address for the record, sir.
Yeah, Eric Holloway, 116 Timberland Drive, or Trail. I'm actually glad to finally maybe not be the controversial agenda item, so we'll get back to that probably next month, but I just want to take that moment to appreciate that that didn't happen this month. Or at least I hope it's not the controversial. I did talk to her at length. She actually does live in the North Little Rock section, so she's not actually in your ward, but I do think her concerns need to be taken as valid. She does not back up to any of the proposed lots of my subdivision. She's next to the green space that's closer to the roundabout. But we will do everything that is required by code when it comes to drainage, and we will be closely monitored as far as that goes. We will be able to take care of all of our concerns. And actually, the way this falls, none of our drainage will go towards any of those lots. It all falls towards the biome.
Okay. Yeah, I understood that she was actually a resident of Maumelle there.
No, she's not, and that's just that one little finger section of Country Club that's in North Little Rock.
I didn't realize it extended all the way to Carondelet there. Okay. What about trees? Are you going to have a buffer between the new neighborhood and the Carondelet neighborhood?
I have a 25-foot buffer shown. There's a 15-foot buffer on there. Now, they've cleared all the trees. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm doing a more of a low-impact design. The builder's going to clear the lots. I'm not going to do that on the front end. I don't really, while I'm obviously always a part of a lot of those developments, it's not my favorite way of doing it. I like the low-impact design, so since this is my development, that's what we're going to do. So we'll leave all the buffers will stay just as they are today. And I have a 25-foot buffer against that subdivision where I'll leave the trees as they are.
All righty. Okay, I think there were 2 or 3 things the Planning Commission left as needing to be satisfied. Something about compliance with drainage, a soil test, and some type of AEDQ storm drain analysis. Is all that something that has to be signed off on before we proceed on?
That's a common part of the subdivision process. As we move forward with the civil construction set, we'll have to comply with all AEDQ. There's actually a long laundry list of government agencies we have to go get approvals from, but those are a few of them.
All righty. How many more times will we see anything about this neighborhood in the city council approval process on this neighborhood? Will we see anything else, or is this the only time we will see this? All right.
I'd say never. This approval concludes what we anticipate coming before the council.
Okay.
And just to clarify your earlier remark, if I may, we were talking, the city and I, about what we might do with the east. There's been nothing that's been completely decided. Also, the landowner to the south that came in, 24C Country Club of Arkansas Development, has agreed to maybe adjust their plat too to allow for some public access to the eastern section with nice natural trails and maybe even a public kayak and canoe launch. But it's something that we're just in discussions for now and is not completely in place. I want to know that we're going to be able to limit access out there to some degree and not have it, so I want a small trailhead or something to that effect. And then I'm curious to know what the long-term maintenance of that will be. Me and my son go up and down the bayou all the time. A lot of people probably see how much I go along the bayou, picking up trash and beer cans and all that. So I just want to do it correctly. I'm impressed with some of the parks that I've seen pop up around Little Rock, like Rattlesnake Ridge. If any of y'all have been there, it's got a very small trailhead. They did the drive such with a cable and bollard system so that people couldn't park along the drive. So it really limits the use at any one time, and it's easier for the park system to maintain and go out and get all the trash on a daily basis. So that's kind of what I'm looking for if we can move forward with that. So as long as the city and I can work out that kind of arrangement, then I'll be in favor of it.
Okay. The only last question I've got is traffic. Have we considered the effect of this neighborhood on, right now there's only 2 ways to get into all those new neighborhoods that are being developed in that area off of Country Club Parkway, Carondelet, that area, and the other one. And is there it seems like there is a street we put on the master street plan that would go down and connect into White Hope.
And the city owns the right of way for that. Natural Trail, which actually comes up just to the east, and what would be cool about that is it's actually called Natural Trail, and it would end at this trailhead, hopefully that would be natural trails that go along
Okay.
White Oak Bow, but it goes all the way down to, White Oak Crossing, just next to Natural Trail Estates, and it's not built, but the city does own the right of way already. The citizens in that area provided the right of way to the city when
Okay.
they ran the utilities through that section.
All right, thank you. Is this a road that would need to be developed by the developers, or who would pay for this road?
Let me get.
Do we know?
It is a proposed collector road, so, if that land was developed, they'd need to, make that connection there. Now, the council is free and the city can build that road, especially if we think that, the benefits to the region, are such that it's in the public's interest to make that connection and not simply wait on a redevelopment of that area. And because there are residences there currently, I see no sign of a development coming through anytime in the near future that would require them to build that road. It would also be a fairly costly road for the amount of usable space, so I don't see that. Who knows in the future, but it's not something that I have any indication is gonna occur anytime soon. I have a feeling that the city will end up wanting that connection quicker than the property owner of that area does.
Okay. Well, at this point, would Mr. Grummer and you say that we have enough adequate capacity to get people in to support a new neighborhood like this?
I think the big bottleneck right now is at Diamond Point, or not Diamond Point, Diamond Park. That is with the roundabout that we're looking at constructing. Currently, all that traffic kind of comes out and they're heading down to the third interchange, and that intersection is dicey, and will be until that roundabout goes in. We're hoping to have that under construction, I'll say before the end of the year, but I'm hoping to blow that out. Once that occurs, it's almost a wait and see to see how much of that how much that alleviates issues in that area. And then it's that intersection that we did the traffic study on a couple of years ago, and that had projected future numbers on it, which led to the roundabout. So
What's good about Natural Trail is it's gonna be on the east side of the new proposed high school, so if that connection is made, then a
Right.
lot of those neighborhoods will be able to get in the morning out and get out of that school traffic, so I think it is something the city will be looking at.
Yeah, that'd be something very good to have for those residents. Is there any more developable residential land out in that area, or is this pretty much take care of all that?
Well, I think the council did approve, or not, I mean, I think the council approved a preliminary development plan that's probably now expired at the end of Country Club Parkway, so that would be that's a fairly large amount of property that, I'm not aware of any pending development, but it is a large, development that has come in the past, so I'd say that could come forward sometime soon again. And then I guess the lands along Natural Trail, just given the, emerging development along that corridor, you would expect that you could see some residential in that area.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Grummer, did you have anything to add to that question? And no is okay. I'm trying to read your mind here, but I'm getting a headache. Okay. Thank you. Any additional discussion on Resolution 2021-19? I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Resolution 2021-19 is approved. Next order of business is Resolution 2021-20, approving a revised preliminary development plan. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2021-20, approving the preliminary development plan for Diamond Center Country Club of Arkansas, Phase 18, Track 4.
All right, this is the preliminary development plan for, well, Diamond Center. Is there any discussion on that resolution? Councilmember Holt?
Right.
Councilmember Holt?
Right. Does this mean that the vote is including conditional use number 1, where the planning commission deferred that one, or are we still voting potentially as to approve it, even though they voted to defer it? Or is it the next 4 that we're talking about?
Madam Sinatra?
So this is just the preliminary development plan, it's not the conditional use. So the application that was included was the conditional use because that was the only application on file. But the conditional use was, I believe the applicant decided to go ahead and withdraw that because of the council's recommendation to defer. During the meeting, as we discussed it, and I believe there was their realtor that said they don't have a business owner committed to that particular space yet. In looking at the code, the applicant for conditional use is to be the owner or operator of the business itself. And so we did not have a proper applicant at that time. So we're not going to consider the conditional use. That's been withdrawn. It's just the preliminary development plan.
Okay.
Which means that the approval of this preliminary development plan does not approve a drive-through restaurant at this location.
Right. There was, as the city attorney pointed out at the meeting, that there was great confusion as to the definition of what was drive-through or what was drive-up or restaurant and that kind of thing. So they couldn't define it, so they withdrew it for multiple reasons. But also, if we vote yes on this, there is no potential person or company that is looking at any one of those 5 areas. Does that mean that if they find someone, they do not have to come back to us and ask for our clearance to okay that item before it goes in there? Or do we have control over what 5 agencies what they're going to be used for? If I'm not making that clear, but.
I suppose that would depend on what that use is. If that use is a conditional use, which is a use that would require approval of a conditional use by the Planning Commission and the City Council, say for example a drive-in restaurant, then that would come back through the Planning Commission and to the Council. If it is an approved use in that area, it does not. I also don't know that it's accurate to say no one has looked at that. They just haven't announced anybody that they are using as the anchor, and I'm not sure if they have one or not.
Right. But any of the others. In other words, if the lady that spoke had 4 or 5 suggestions as to what not should be in that building, and one of her points was that no adult store, as the word she used, should be there because it is next to a ball field or the youth area. So that's my question. What kind of control will the city have if we okay this? I'm not fighting it, I'm just asking the question to clarify it. Does that owner have to come back to us and say, I want to put in this shop or that shop, and do we have the right to okay it?
Yes, sir. So that depends on what the use is. If it was an adult shop and if you're talking about a sexually oriented business, we have the provisions of code that would explain how that works. If it's the type of use that's conditional in this area, meaning it requires additional approvals, then yes, it has to come back. If it isn't, then we have the same level of approvals we do for any strip center, and usually they don't. Churches, for example, if a church were wanting to go in there, those are currently conditional uses, and that would have to come back and get approval. So there's a long list of the uses that are conditional. Some would come to y'all and some would not.
But I just wanted to know if we have
Yes, sir.
control. That's fine. That answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, this is another item in Ward 1 here. Mr. Saunders in my ward. this is currently zone PRD, would that be correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, some other uses for PRD could be high-density housing. Could be a lot of different types of commercial and that sort of thing. Is that correct, Mr. Grimmer?
So in a PRD, you're allowed to do anywhere from R1 to R3 density housing, which is anything from single family to multifamily, as well as what's considered in our C1 district, which is our village center meant to serve the residential neighborhoods in a small
Okay.
urban setting.
I wanted to make sure that went on the record, because I know the people that live around there that'll be backing up to this area were very, very much an objection to putting anything there. And I think they were hoping it could just remain vacant property, but we all know that when somebody owns some property, they have a right to develop it within the law and the zoning laws and that sort of thing. And the reason I wanted to point that out is because I think, unless somebody can see where I'm wrong, I think this is probably the best thing that could develop here that would not be intrusive on the surrounding residents and things like that. They've talked about being very happy to put in some screening, some trees, and there's going to be there's a drainage ditch that goes between that building and the residents that also would buffer. I've seen the facades and things like that. And hopefully the backside of the building will be presentable, or at least screened or something from the ball field to where it will look good. So to me, this is, and it may be eventually there'll be a restaurant on one end with a drive-through, and that's something that would come back to us as a conditional use, as I understand. So we'll be able to address that if that does happen. But I think this is probably the best thing for all those residents that were upset about that to go in here. You won't have a 3-story apartment building looking down in your backyard or something like that, which could happen. That's what North Little Rock did to us down there in that area. So unless somebody sees where I'm wrong, I'm in favor of this. I think it's a nice addition. If the developer wants to say anything and is in present, I'd be more than happy to listen to that. Otherwise, I'm on board. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Shin?
One question for Scott. Do we know the distance of this facility from the new high school?
From the new high school? So we measured it, it's under 1,500 feet.
Okay, so that solves a lot of our problems with the adult businesses and such as that.
So to answer the question, that came up with a dispensary use, which by state regulation, it cannot be within 1,500 feet of a school. So this specific site would fall in a range that would not be allowed. As far as other adult type uses, sexually oriented business is not allowed in a C1, so that's not allowed. Liquor store is only allowed as a conditional use in a C2, so that's not allowed in a C1. There was mention of a tattoo or a tobacco store. Now, those are not defined within our regulation, so we consider those as standard retail. Of course, the age limit on that, I believe, is 18. It's not 21, so it serves a different population.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2021-20. Councilmember Mazzoni?
Approved. Motion to approve. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will move on to Resolution 2021-21, amending a street name. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, resolution number 2021-21, a resolution amending the name of Club Manor Cove to Jackie Johnson Cove in honor of the late Jackie Johnson.
I do have a public comment card, though this is Councilmember Williams's resolution, so I'll let her introduce the resolution for calling on the public comment card.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this opportunity to get to do this. As we all know, Miss Jackie Johnson was a dedicated public servant and very well known and very well liked in our community, and depended on her a lot for what she did while she was here. And if it's okay, if I may, Mayor, just read this part of the ordinance, of the resolution, I'm sorry. The late Jackie Johnson served as a dedicated public servant to the city of Maumelle, both in her volunteer efforts throughout the community and in her civic involvement in transitioning Maumelle to a mayor-council form of government. She played a key role, and she served proudly as Maumelle's First Lady. She was instrumental in the special census of 2005, and she was a great advocate for the continued growth and development of the city of Maumelle as a great place to live, work, and play. Jackie was not only a wonderful woman, she was also a very good friend, and we suffered a great loss with her passing, I believe, and I know that she did a lot of work behind the scenes as far as the growth of Maumelle. And I think as a city, we should appreciate and honor our very First Lady. And this is just a small way of doing that. This city, this particular street has a confusing name anyway, and it's going to have to be changed. And she spent so much time at the senior center and spent just multiple volunteer hours. She was always there. She always had a wonderful smile on her face, taking care of everybody that was there. And this small, short street, naming it after her, on Birch Johnson's birthday, by the way, I think is very, very appropriate.
Thank you. Were you going to make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-21?
I do make a motion to approve Resolution number 2021-21. Thank you.
I've got a motion and a second. Before we get to any additional public comments, I have a public comment card from Mr. Fred Payton. Come on down. You're the next contestant. If you could please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Fred Payton, 153 Hibiscus, Maumelle. I'm just reiterating really what our council person has said. Jackie was really involved in Maumelle in every way that she could get involved in education, in working at the senior center. Back when it was in the downstairs of the city office, she was always there serving food and doing whatever she could do to help. And I just think this would be a fitting tribute to her to rename that. And also, it is Birch's birthday today, and she was the First Lady, and I just think it'd be a fitting thing to do. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just to explain maybe a little bit further, we've had an issue, and Ms. Nicole Vogler is here. I think if anyone had any questions about her as the center on the lake, I believe is currently the only address on that street. We've had a issue in the past of folks going to, is it 2 Club Manor Drive to a residence's house when they are intending to go to 2 Club Manor Cove. And in fact, we've had difficulty with Google Maps and GPS taking people there. And we've received a number of complaints of individuals actually walking into the house, opening the door and walking into the house. As a result, we came up with a solution that kind of works, and that's changing the address so that it's not 2 Club Manor Cove. That hopefully will work. I think GIS and Planning and Permits has already worked with some of the GIS technologies to get that changed so that GPS isn't taking people there. But nonetheless, by renaming it, it does further clarify that Club Manor Cove and Club Manor Drive are not the same. So I just wanted to expand on what Councilmember Williams said. With that, I do have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on 2021-21? Councilmember Mosley.
Yes, I would like to ask what the, kind of the generally accepted, method is for renaming streets, on deaths and that sort of thing, and perhaps if you would want to share your personal opinion on the appropriateness of this action.
My personal?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'd love to give my opinion, no. Historically, so far as I know, the city's only named buildings, facilities, streets after individuals that are deceased. You'll note that this street is named specifically after Mrs. Jackie Johnson, as she recently passed away. In the past, when we've renamed a street, we sent mail to all the property owners who had property abutting that. In this case, I think we didn't do that so that we weren't sending ourselves 3 pieces of mail, because the city owns the fire station, the center on the lake, and the currently the corner lot there. Those are all city property. My personal opinion on naming stuff is I think we do it pretty frequently, and maybe more frequently than I would prefer, generally speaking. And that's just a general belief. So. And I want to be crystal clear. Is in no way targeting, saying that I don't think that Miss Jackie Johnson, that this is improper. I just think that we should always be cautious when we name things after people, because there's really only a limited amount of things to name. Councilmember Mosley.
That's well said. I thought a lot of Ms. Johnson also. If at some point I think it would be appropriate for sure to name something after Birch Johnson, if he should ever die before I leave the council, I'd be very much to support that, whether it be, something but very appropriate. He was the first mayor. He had quite an influence on the city. And I don't want this to be a popularity contest, and I'm really on the fence on this, but I don't know whether we should do this or wait and then just name that road after both of them. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional discussion on Resolution 2021? Councilmember Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. I was talking to my darling bride about this, and she had an interesting suggestion, and I put a lot of thought into it, and I like Jackie too, except she fussed at me every time I talked politics with Birch, and it was a thing between us. But one of these days, we'll probably, as you said, we'll probably be wanting to honor Birch, and maybe it would be more, it's just a thought, maybe it would be more appropriate to call it Johnson Cove or something like that, so that it would include both of them. And it's just a thought.
So, I spoke to the, Councilmember Williams.
I think we're about to say the same thing. We can't include Birch in this just yet, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We just talked about that.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait. The fact that, I wanted to do something for Jackie, is because I felt like Jackie had done so much for us. And we're not talking about, City Hall, or we're not talking about renaming the third exit. We're talking about basically a driveway.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything to honor her in some shape, form, or fashion by, just naming a street that we've gotta rename it anyway. So naming it after somebody who has actually, made quite the contribution in our community.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
And if I could chime in, thank you, Councilmember Williams. I think the first elected mayor that maybe this wouldn't quite be a big enough road, or something along those lines. So I don't think it precludes that if it ever occurs.
Okay.
Any additional discussion on Resolution 2021-21? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion passes. Club Manor Cove is hereby named Jackie Johnson Cove in honor of the late Jackie Johnson. Next order of business is Resolution 2021-22 regarding surplus property. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, a resolution to approve the disposal of city surplus property.
Thank you. This is one of the fire department's vehicles was involved in a wreck. You've seen the memo there by Chief Ezell. The following budget request is regarding, it's also somewhat related to replacing this. We're just requesting authority to dispose of this vehicle that has been totaled out. And by dispose of it, I do mean selling it. Because of the value, we'll have to sell it by auction, reverse auction, or something along those lines.
Motion to approve resolution 2021-22.
Second. Is there any, I heard, is there any additional discussion on this? Councilmember Mosley?
I'm assuming all these accounting entries are basically just net things out. We're getting proceeds from insurance and all that and
Correct,
turn around and buying a new car. Is that correct?
Correct, and we'll talk, we'll address the budget for the next resolution. This is just the resolution authorizing us to
Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself
salvage
there.
vehicle.
Okay.
Well, they're kind of related, and I
Right.
caused that problem. So, the city received $36,390 from our insurance, for it, but we still have the vehicle that we think that we can sell for approximately $8,500.
Okay. Do we know how could you explain how the vehicle got wrecked? Did anybody get hurt?
Gerald Ezo, I'm the fire chief. So on June 22nd, we had an individual and his daughter that ran the stop sign over off of Casey Drive, right directly into the path of our battalion chief that was traveling down Murphy. Fortunately, nobody was seriously injured. The young lady that was in the car was transported to the hospital, but not with life-threatening injuries or anything of that sort. We were very fortunate. We actually had a truck driver that had a video camera and caught the whole thing on video, so we were actually able to see. I mean, we had zero reaction time. It was, the car blew the stop sign right in front of us, and we ran into him. I mean, there was no avoiding it whatsoever.
Thank you, sir. That's all I've got.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and second to approve resolution 2021-22. Let me read that again. We have a motion and second to approve resolution 2021-22. Is there any additional discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Next order of business is resolution 2021-23, amending the 2021 general fund budget. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2021-23, a resolution to amend the 2021 general fund budget.
Thank you. This resolution is basically zeroing out the money we received from the insurance and the money we anticipate receiving from the sale of the vehicle to allow the fire department to purchase a vehicle. Chief Ezell's worked extremely diligently trying to track down vehicles at a time where vehicles are not easy to get a hold of. Chief, have you actually tracked one down, or did that fall through? Where'd you leave off with that? Uh-oh. Never ask a question.
Actually, I can't take credit for the tracking stuff down. Chief Holmes, battalion chief on B shift, has been very diligent. He deals with a lot of our vehicle items, but he's actually found we can order a 2022 for $37,188. I think in the memo, if you've got the memo I sent to the mayor, the one we purchased in 2019 was $36,390, which is exactly what we got back from the insurance settlement on that. I don't know if any of you guys have priced used vehicles, but we paid $36,390 for that. It was valued at $50,000 something by the time the accident occurred. So we actually got every dime we paid for that back, and a brand new one is going to be $700 and some difference. The salvage vehicle will have a salvage title. We've actually had some salvage buyers already looking at it, so whenever we go to auction with it, we basically already have a bid for $8,500. And all we're looking to do is move that money back over to our capital so we can replace that vehicle. I mean, I thought for a while we were actually going to be able to put that thing in the frame shop and they weren't going to total it, but the frame is apparently bent a little worse than what they originally thought once they got into it.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-23. Second.
Any additional discussion on that motion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That concludes new business. We'll move on to mayor's comments. I placed on y'all's desk some information on a benchmarking trip. For those that don't know, a benchmarking trip is an opportunity to go into another community or another city to see what has been working there and what has not been working there. It has proved extreme. I had the opportunity in 2019 to go with Metro Plan to Northwest Arkansas and just overnight and really meet with some of the local leaders about the things that were going on that was working really well and was part of the cause for a lot of the thriving that we're seeing up there. And it was really neat. You can go to those areas and drive around on your own, but unless you're talking to the people as they're showing you different things, you don't fully get an appreciation for that. Then with Metro Plan, we had the opportunity to go to Greenville, South Carolina, to look at an area that is similar to, it's Northwest Arkansas, that's just thriving. It was an old industrial textile city. Well, obviously there's not a lot of textiles being manufactured in the U.S. So how has that city reinvented itself to be cutting edge and thriving when all of its industry over the last 100 years has gone away? And a lot of other cities can learn from those sort of things. For example, I'd rather be in Greenville than Detroit when the automobile industry market switch. Anyway, so that's what a benchmarking trip is, and I think it'll give us a great opportunity to go to an area and look at how they're developing that community and how they're using, in particular, the Razorback Greenway for their community development and economic development, which really at this time provides a great intersection with both walkability and bikeability in those areas. And unless you get up there and see it and talk to those folks, it's difficult to see. The timing on this is right, in my opinion. We know we have the Regional Greenway Study under review. If y'all haven't, take a look at that link I sent out to y'all. It's on social media to fill out that survey for the Regional Greenway System. So we've been having meetings, both us with the planners, us with all of the Metro Plan entities, counties, and cities in the Central Arkansas region. They recently sent up to Northwest Arkansas the Regional Greenway Steering Committee, took a benchmarking trip up to Northwest Arkansas, and that's select mayors and county judges, one from each county in the Metro Plan region, to go up there, to get out there and see what was going on up there, and hopefully be able to take back some of that stuff to their communities to be able to apply to the regional system. Now, that was such a small select group that a lot of folks didn't get to go. And so what is happening is, you could take Cabot Mayor Ken Kincaid went with the steering committee, thought it was so valuable, he's come back, and now Cabot is going, their city council and some city staff are going up there for the same 2-day trip. And so I'm proposing that we do that. Their scheduling is very limited. They have openings right now that we could get for September 1st and 2nd to go up there with any council members that wanted to do that. And then depending on whatnot, maybe some of the city staff planning. I haven't told Scott, but he seems to be smiling. So, so I just wanted to put this out there. I think it is one of the things that oftentimes we encounter problems, we encounter situations, or we try and take actions that our sister cities and jurisdictions are facing, and some of them facing them with better success than us, and some of them facing with less success than us. And we don't have to reinvent every problem. And so I think this is particularly useful at this time in Maumelle, as it looks like what is going to happen is the regional greenway for the northwest corridor is going to come down Maumelle Boulevard, loop up through Club Manor, and come down Club Manor from Odom to roughly Millwood. That coincides with the Club Manor corridor study that we're doing. And so as we start talking about that, it'll be helpful for y'all to have some context to what we're talking about, and whether you think it's a good idea or not. So I want to briefly open the floor to see if this is something that y'all would be interested, all or some, interested in going in. This basically a fact-finding mission.
I'm good, let's go.
It is.
I'll check what day
Hold on.
is that.
The 1st and 2nd is a Wednesday and Thursday. We have the option of, and so if there's interest, we can work out some of the logistics. I penciled in the booking, told them I'd let them know tomorrow whether we thought we'd be in or out. We could do the Wednesday and Thursday, September 1st and 2nd. The next openings that we could even pencil in are in mid-December, which is not a time that I want to be thinking about that sort of stuff. If there's we could look at carpooling or just everyone drive up separately. We also have the option of going the night before and then being able to start first thing on the 1st. So open the floor. I did hear, I heard a once going twice. Yes, sir?
No, I'm going.
You're interested? Great, yeah.
I'm already there.
Awesome. So you're already there? I think this would be helpful. We think we can. I got a text message from somebody in the audience who said, "Oh, I can pull my camper and cover my own cost." We have money in the street fund, and we think we can get a Metro Plan grant, because Metro Plan is pretty heavily trying to get people to, they have a travel budget that they didn't use this year. And they normally do benchmarking trips by taking people like to Greenville or Northwest Arkansas, different places. So I had a couple people seem that they think they'd be interested. I don't need commitments today, just more than if I had one person say they were interested and no one else was.
Let's go.
Okay. Cool. I'll get back with y'all with more information, get a confirmation. I just wanted to get a feel for it. One of my goals also, and so pause, put that on the side, is to do some more local benchmarking trips, and that can be as simple as just a day trip to Conway to look at some things, some of which you may like, some of which you may not. A day trip out to Argenta, and some of those things. Those are better if we can line them up with the people that were involved in that process and some of the stakeholders in that area, because you'll learn what worked, didn't work, rather than just us drive it and not quite know the magic that went into that area. All right. So I'll get back to y'all with that. Council member comments. Councilmember Mosley.
One quick one, and I'm sorry, I do not know the name of the street, but there's a street that goes from, it intersects in right in front of the community center, and then goes past First Methodist Church, and you enter Stone Ledge off of that street. Is that Millwood? What is that street?
No, it's Woodland.
Woodland, okay. I had a person that actually applied for city clerk back there when we were looking for a city clerk. She and her husband live, I think, in Stone Ledge, and they try to walk to the splash pad, and they say there's a sidewalk that goes down along Stone Ledge. It's not a sidewalk, it's a walking path, and then it dead ends right in the street, and then they walk in the street on down to the community center there. There's a crosswalk there at that intersection. They were wondering if there's any way we could do like what we are doing in Riverland, just put in a walking lane or a bike lane. I did drive down there, and it appears there might be room, and that would connect that crosswalk that goes over the community center on down to that walking path. And I just wanted to just throw that into an idea thing that would probably be a fairly cheap thing to do as opposed to building a sidewalk down there.
You were referring to connecting Stone Ledge to Edgewood with a bike path there?
Yes.
Bike walking path, in-road bike walking path.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just an idea. They wanted me to throw that out. I said I'd do that.
And that's, thank you, but that's a great example. There's a lot of walkability and bikeability that we're starting to see more and more people. Sidewalks are something that the more you build, the more people want to use them, and the more noticeable it is when there's portions that aren't there. And there's a number, we point out hundreds where there's two sidewalks real close to each other, but that don't quite touch. One of my goals is to get this corridor study done with Club Manor and then come back to the council for y'all to see what happens when we drill into a particular corridor in hopes of doing a complete bike ped plan for the city. That is figuring out, we have a pretty good idea of where the bike trails and sidewalks are now, but going that next step to trying to figure out where those connections need to be, and then prioritizing which ones we can start building just gradually over time. Short of a big bond project, massive bike paths and sidewalks are not something we expect to see, but if you don't start working on them, you won't. Historically, you won't ever get to it. Historically, what the city has done is use TAP grant money for sidewalks. We did that for the Edgewood sidewalk that we had in 19 go in Edgewood, Lake Point Place. For those that have been paying attention a little bit longer, I believe that was the same grant that was used for the bike trail going from Arnold Palmer to Crystal Hill. So we're always looking for those opportunities to apply for those, but that's hit or miss. And then really it's us just trying to randomly sell a project that we think increases walkability, bikeability, but checks as many of the check boxes as possible. What we're seeing is MetroPlan is moving away from what some might argue is a series of political discussions and, hey, you guys can get this time and we'll get this time, to more of an objective criteria whereby projects are rated and scored based on various criteria with a full panel, and then those are weighted and money is applied there. What we're finding out, and we saw a great example, was getting the $1 million+ grant from MetroPlan for the White Oak Crossing roundabout, is that if you have a plan and then you design it, you design your project to fit what they're looking for, it makes it a lot easier than design a project and hope it hits what they're looking for. So part of that is having a plan and very specific goals, but that's way more than you were asking. I'll look at Woodland and we'll get some measurements and run out of breath. Councilmember Williams.
I just want to say, I'm so emotional because I'm so tickled that this passed, this resolution, because she was such a good friend of mine. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me with this. I know it's going to mean the world to her family, and it means the world to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney.
I don't think I have any additional comments today.
Madam City Clerk.
No comments.
Outstanding. There's a finance workshop here tomorrow, 6 o'clock, and take a look at that speed study that was in the back of the city council packet. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I've got a motion. Do I hear a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for your service.